my 2013 Scion FRS, so this is really early. I mean, this is the first 6 months of production on this car. But since I've had this as my daily car year-round, sun, snow, you name it seems like a good time to talk about the best and worst of this car. Of course, one of the best features of this car is the handling. Steering quality, the way that it rotates, the shift of its weight. You have to get into things like the Porsche Cayman to start to actually surpass the natural abilities of this chassis. Now, right behind that you're saying, but these cars are so slow. They are, I agree, these are not fast cars. However, I think the problem with the power is not what we believe it to be. It isn't that number. Take the MX-5, for example, the current MX-5. Nobody talks about the Miata as being a genuinely fast car, but you don't hear a whole lot of complaints in every review about this car is slow. The reason for that is because it has a nice surge in power all the way through. I remain stunned that from the factory, this car comes with a tune that has a huge torque dip between 35 and about 5,000 RPM. That's the place if you daily drive it, you're in that valley all the time. You look at a car like the Fiesta ST, it feels pretty fast. Now, actually in straight 0 to 60, it's not really any faster than this is, but it has that turbo punch in the mid-range where this car lacks, and that's why that car feels quick. One of the other very common critiques of this car is the quality of the interior. These gauges that come on the FRS or the base 86 or the base BRZ, they are cutting-edge dials for 1990. You, of course, can get the nicer interior that has the dual climate control and it has buttons and digital and all of that. Once you start touching on that, you realize that even feels 10 years old. This 86 platform is going to cost you between $25,000 and $33,000. Think about other cars in that price bracket. The Mazda 3, which has a far nicer interior, and the GTI, which has a luxury car interior compared to this. But of course, those are front-wheel drive, and the money was not put into making a chassis that was dedicated to being a sports car. What is surprising to anyone that gets in this car is how roomy it is. With the fold-down seats, I've gotten skis, I've gotten huge items in here, and of course my son can sit in the back with this passenger seat pushed forward. He's a tall kid for 7 and he does great. This is the slightly upgraded stereo system that was available with the FRS. And it is truly wonderful. The BRZ is kind of known for having a terrible stereo system with bad Bluetooth. Chance, who shoots for us, complains about the Bluetooth in his car all the time. I don't have a single complaint in mine. Meanwhile, this car has no trunk release. Well, okay, it has an inside the cabin trunk release, and if you stand at the trunk with the key fob, you can open the trunk. But if you want to stand at the trunk like many normal people do and hit a button, sorry, no button. Everyone that has an 86 has noise. They have rattles. When you get one of these cars stock, there's actually quite a bit of noise at the firewall. The engine just rattles away. That can get annoying because it's not an attractive sound. Of course, if you have these cars for more than about 10,000 miles, you get what they call the cricket problem, which is the fuel pump, high-pressure fuel pump, sounds like a cricket. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just noisy. In my 2 years of owning the car, my annoying rattle has moved around the car. For a while, it was the back right quarter panel somewhere. Never was able to find it. It then moved to just underneath the stereo, and lately that one has died and replaced itself with one somewhere behind the instrument panel. Everyone I know that has one of these cars, Chance included, describes their rattle that they have. That's where this car is an inexpensive car and you're just going to be chasing stuff. So while the interior could certainly be better, and there are places in the interior that let you know they built this car to a price, but your placement of all of your driving controls, the gear stick, the steering wheel, the pedals that are actually perfectly spaced for heel toe, the way the seats hang on to you, it's hard at any price to find a car that has done it better in those ways than this little tiny cheap 86 platform. I truly believe if it came from the factory with the tunes that are widely available on the aftermarket that kill that torque dip, I think everybody would talk about this car as not a rocket ship, but nobody would complain about it being slow. I like this car so much better, not with a power increase, just with a flattening of the torque curve. Once you get it on a back road where it shines, it's plenty powerful enough, it's plenty fast enough, just you're not going to beat anybody dragging from the lights. If you're excited about blasting up an on-ramp, yes, people will beat you. If you like track driving, if you like driving on a canyon road, trust me, even in base form, this car is plenty fast for that. For example, when Paul and I go on canyon runs and he's in his GTS that costs almost 4 times as much as this car new. In the straights, yes, I'm a dot in his rearview mirror, but in the corners, we're pretty much bumper to bumper. That shouldn't be possible in a car this cheap, but good tires, driven hard, it absolutely is. And you can't tell me that with good tires you can't have fun. Don't believe the commentary out there that if you put sticky tires on this, it ceases to be fun. Put really good tires on this car and go on a back road and you will surprise yourself with how much speed you can just carry and feel confident. I've put plenty of people in this car that have never been in one of these, and they all get out kind of jaw-dropped. Most of them will start gripping the side of the door when we come into a corner thinking there's no way we'll hang on. With good tires on this chassis, you will.
For reliability, I've had some odd issues. A gas tank pressure valve failed, resulting in a replacement under warranty. But then, the filler line from the tank to the cap corroded. Apparently this was a known issue in the very early FRS. This was not replaced when the tank was replaced, and by this point, of course, it was out of warranty, costing me $700. And the hub bolts are surprisingly soft. A slight misthread or an over-torque here will snap these things like twigs. Once it happened to me, I heard from many other owners that it happened to them as well. Otherwise, just oil and filter changes, and of course, brakes and tires.
I still really love this car. I do have it for sale, but I have no love lost. It's kind of cool to have a car that's like, I want somebody else to grab this. I want somebody else to love it as much as I do because I still thoroughly enjoy it. This is a cheap car. It has some cheap car problems, but to drive, it's actually spectacular. Just don't drag race because you will lose.